All right, back at it again with another episode, Spiritual Art of War. As you know, we're in Memorial Day weekend, and this is the beginning of, another hot girl summer. As we know, this time of the year, you have people that are in relationships, and there's breakups being initiated or have been initiated leading up to this time. You have, people that are ending, of course, their school year in high school. You also have people ending their year in college. And also you got those that maybe were not attending college, that are, regular workers. They're planning trips with their friends. A lot of these girls have decided that they're going to go to different places and they're going to turn up. And this is like the beginning of it. And I wanted to kind of talk about really, our people, okay? Black people in America, because this idea that we're just gonna party and bullshit is gonna come to an end. Even right now, there's people that are going to try and find the way to come up with the money so they can go and have fun. A lot of stuff dried up since the COVID era, where the PPP loans were sent out, some of the free money that was sent out, also the extended unemployment, which if you're in certain states, that was quite a bit, because some states have a lot more, higher unemployment maxes than others. And then you had the federal unemployment that was tacked on. So a lot of people really turned up 5 years ago around the same time and really, quote unquote, enjoyed themselves. And people still have the image of wanting to turn up and have these, hot girl summers, because really the summertime is really centered around the woman and what they want to do, okay, and the kind of men that they want to hook up with and deal with, okay. And we're talking about women that are in their prime of their their mating market, because this is biology at the end of the day, right? These young women that are 18 and all the way up into their 20s that are turning up, they're supposed to be, married, looking after their children, and helping their husbands as helpmeets. But they're not. They've been tricked in this society by those that are in power, all right, that have secret councils, that they're going to, condition you to continue to throw your lives away and to delay what you're really supposed to do. And then you get to the point where you see these situations. And this is the reason why Kevin Samuel blew up, because a lot of these women, they wasted so many years. They got pregnant, got diseases, had babies, sometimes babies by multiple men, and then they found themselves later on in their life, as they're approaching 30 or over 30, approaching the wall or hitting the wall, and then they realized that they needed to get a man, and really they didn't want a man because they think it's important. They really want it for survival, because the men in their eyes are nothing more than a walking ATM and somebody that's going to help them fix their problems that they created themselves. Now, what is happening also is that you have a generation of women that are misleading these young women and are not telling them to not make the same mistakes that they did. So now you have multi-generational poverty that's set in. And, you also have an alleged bill that was passed by the Congress that's going to shorten up this welfare state, okay? And they're going to make it a lot harder, and it is harder, because I've actually have ran across women that had tried to move to Houston, or had, were moving to Houston, and they were trying to get benefits, and they weren't able to. They had kids, they were single mothers, they were on wait lists for different places, and a lot of that stuff is dried up, to be honest. A lot of housing that's for, people that are, have lower income or whatever, that have children that need these assistance, it's getting increasingly competitive, okay, because it's just not enough to go around. And they're going to shorten that stuff up. This is basically a tightening of the United States budget that's going on, and the economy is somewhat shrinking. You can kind of feel it. And then goods and services are increasing. So people are just not understanding that their putting themselves in a worse situation in the long run when they seek after these short-term pleasures, especially if you're a woman, because your shelf life is a lot shorter than a man. You know, one thing about men, we are more adaptable. And if you stay away from drugs and alcohol, you know, if you're able to have not been addicted to those things, you're going to be able to have a lot more discipline than the average man that does have those vices. So men will buckle down. We'll go get a second job. We'll go pick up them overtime shifts, and we're going to find a way to survive. We'll downsize our lives. Okay, we'll go and turn in the Scat Pack, the Hellcat, and go get ourselves a pre-owned Honda Accord to make lives easier for ourselves, because we understand that survival is more important than showing off. Of course, you got certain men that they're gonna, you know, fall into that temptation of wanting to show off for these 304s who basically have low value, but they want to impress them, and they're gonna get themselves caught up in their own situation. That's why you got a lot of guys out here jacking, robbing, drug dealing, scamming, and then they get caught up because the way the technology is in this day of crime fighting, you know, they basically can figure out what you're doing pretty quickly, and it's very easy to catch criminals these days, especially with the younger generation. They self-incriminated and snitching on themselves, so, I mean, how much easier can it get, right? But that's part of the ecosystem. 304s need men like that are doing these things in order for them to enjoy themselves. So it's part of the ecosystem and how it's worked out. And, you know, what's happening now in the year of 2025, I'm telling you, when you go back to 2010, a girl that was graduating high school, it was so much easier for her to survive than today. It was way easier. You know what I'm saying? You can go get a job, a full-time job at damn near any you know, industry, and you can still go get you a small little apartment and go get you a small little used car, especially if you were able to have maybe a little bit of assistance from, you know, a sibling, a parent, even a relative. You know, it was nothing for people, especially if you had a decent family or you had people around you that wanted to give you $1,000 to help you on your down payment, or that can co-sign on your first used car. You can go get yourself a little Kia Forte or something like that, or a little Altima. You know what I'm saying? I remember back in the day, you know, girl can go get herself a brand new base model Altima, man, on a regular job. Okay, that's why you had that whole thing about the black woman and her Altima. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, and even till now, it was that cheap. You know what I'm saying? And they would get these cars and they would go work and they make their little money, and then on the weekends they go out with their friends. Man, it was very different in the 2000s. But with this inflation, these young girls, man, they're just basically in the sex industry. I mean, and this is just a sad thing, man. I'm gonna be honest, it's very sad, because a lot of the way it's going now, a lot of these young black women, because a lot of them are misdirected, misguided, misled. You know, they have a single mother who has no man over her, so you know Satan's over the mom. So the only thing is going to be influence is going to be wickedness. And all you're going to see, you know, is sex industry. The sex work industry is going to be very common. It's actually increasingly common. And, you know, it's actually kind of scary if you have a daughter, especially if you don't have custody of your daughter, and your daughter's being, you know, your mother, the mother, or your baby mama, if she's a ratchet, or she's involved in the sex industry and things like that. And then you got to think about the influence of her classmates, you know, and everybody else, especially if she lives in certain type of neighborhoods. They look at that as a normal transition, you know what I'm saying, to kind of get into that. Whereas before it was like girls kind of ran away and moved to other cities, and sometimes even girls did that out of like a last resort, right? Because maybe they became a single mother and they have 2-3 kids and they jump in there, they're pretty, they go and work at a strip club. You know, me being from H-Town, that is something that was kind of common. But you got to remember, man, there's a supply and demand issue, all right? Back in the day when these girls were strippers, especially before Instagram, you had to be, you know, a good-looking girl. You went there, them girls would go there, they would go to the club, They would meet the manager or the hiring manager, and then they would basically choose them and give them certain slots and that they would come in to dance, right? So what happens when you got millions upon millions of young women who are looking to enter into some form of sex work? Strip clubs are pretty much dead. Everything is pretty much moved to Instagram and online. And you also got girls that are doing online and meeting guys as well, and you see that stuff on YouTube, man, with some of these 304s talking about it. Even on TikTok, you have 304 Chronicles where women talk about how to be a 304, how to successfully, market themselves and things like that. It's real crazy. So we're in a time now where young women are putting themselves in a position where this is what they're looking at as a reality of their own future. And that's a sad reality that's going to happen with a lot of young women, bruh. You know what I'm saying? And I've actually had seen certain situations, even, in the last few years where, someone that you wouldn't think, you wouldn't even think would be in it, it was in it. You know what I'm saying? I done seen women that, I told a brother a situation about a girl who was one of those street interviews. And it was like a street interview, and it was like talking about, how she would be in a relationship with a man, and she had all the right answers, bro. I mean, guys like, yo, who is she? Oh, that's a real woman, man. And she was young, too. She might have been 19, 20 at the time. And dudes is like bigging her up because she had all the right answers. She was like, talking about how she would hold her man down, how she has to follow the man and all that stuff. And she was, one of those girls that was, looked like the type that a dude would try and wife up. Man, come to find out, this woman was busting it wide open, had a whole OnlyFans, all kind of crazy stuff. Like, I'm talking about this girl was open. You know what I'm saying? And you wouldn't even know. Just the way she looked. Glasses, looked humble, you know what I'm saying? But, looks can deceive. But this girl was a super freak, man. And that's type of stuff guys have no idea about, man. You think you know a chick, or you might meet a girl out there and you don't even know that she's really like doing the do, man. This girl could be working at Chick-fil-A. I'm telling you, bro. So these girls are having regular jobs, and in their spare time they doing something else. Like, bruh. You know what I'm saying? It used to not really be like that, not out in the open, but these girls, they don't have no shame. This younger generation, this Gen Z, they don't care. Because it's a normal thing in their generation for it to be like this and for it to be open. Okay, so, it is what it is. It's hot this summer. There's going to be a lot of stuff going down, a lot of drama. Whenever you have women out there half naked or butt naked, and they're going to these different cities, they're going to these different clubs, you already know it's going to be shoot 'em up, bang, bang, throughout the whole summer. You're going to see a lot of that in all these major cities with men fighting over these women, over these Tatianas, man. So it is what it is, man. This is definitely going to be an ongoing topic, as you know. So this is Spiritual Art of War again, signing off. Catch you again in the next episode.